In 1877, a mere 800 Nez Perce, adorned in buckskin dresses and sacred war shirts, fled 1,170 miles across rugged mountains, outmaneuvering 2,000 U.S. soldiers. Chief Joseph, clutching his rifle with steady hands, spoke words etched in history by Alvin Josephie. "I am tired of fighting. The little children are freezing to death." With 150 Nez Perce lost in battle, and 150 more perishing in exile, how did a people famed for peace endure such relentless betrayal on their own lands? Watch to uncover this epic of valor and sorrow. Blue lilies sway gently along the edges of Nez Perce teepees, their delicate petals a quiet contrast to the looming fate of a people. Women in woven basket hats prepare salmon, while children chase each other across the prairie, their laughter echoing through the Wallowa Valley. Elders, seated on bison hides, recount tales of ancestors who fished the Clearwater River. This serene tableau, rooted in centuries of tradition, masks a grim truth. By 1877, these gatherings are fading as the Nez Perce face the end of their way of life. Historian Alvin Josephie notes that the Nez Perce numbered about 4,000 in the mid-19th century, thriving across 7.5 million acres of ancestral land in present-day Idaho, Oregon, and Washington. Yet, the encroachment of settlers threatens to unravel this vibrant culture, setting the stage for a tragic exodus. The Namipu, known to history as the Nez Perce, embark on their final journey into exile, a somber procession that marks the twilight of their sovereignty. Families pack teepees onto Appaloosa horses, bred for endurance and prized for their spotted coats. The caravan stretches across the prairie, a miles-long column of 800 souls by 1877, including warriors, women, and children. Their destination is uncertain, driven by military pressure and broken promises. According to the Bureau of Indian Affairs records, the Nez Perce had been steadfast allies of the United States since aiding Lewis and Clark in 1805, offering food and shelter to the starving explorers. This loyalty, however, earns them no reprieve. The journey signals not just physical displacement, but the erosion of a culture tied to the land, as the Nez Perce brace for a future stripped of freedom. In 1855, a treaty affirms the Nez Perce's legal right to nearly their entire ancestral territory, a vast expanse of 7.5 million acres. Signed in Wallowa, the agreement, documented in U.S. Senate records, guarantees the Nez Perce control over lands rich with salmon-filled rivers, game-filled forests, and fertile prairies. Chiefs like Lawyer and Old Joseph, father of the famed Chief Joseph, affix their marks, trusting the United States to honor its word. The treaty reflects the Nez Perce's diplomatic acumen, as they secure rights to hunt, fish, and graze on their lands in perpetuity. Yet, this paper shield proves fragile. Historian Elliot West observes that such treaties often served as temporary concessions, designed to delay conflict until settlers' demands overwhelmed indigenous claims. The Nez Perce's trust in this pact sets the stage for betrayal. Gold sparks calamity in 1860, as Euro-American prospectors flood Nez Perce lands, their picks tearing into the earth. The discovery in the Clearwater River region, as reported in contemporary accounts, draws over 10,000 miners within months, transforming quiet valleys into chaotic camps. These intruders, heedless of the 1855 treaty, stake claims on Nez Perce territory, their greed sanctioned by a government eager for wealth. By 1862, the town of Lewiston, Idaho, swells to 1,800 residents, a bustling hub built on stolen land. The Nez Perce, whose economy relies on fishing and hunting, find their rivers muddied and game scarce. Historian Ken Nurburn writes that the gold rush shattered the Nez Perce's world, turning sacred lands into a battleground of avarice. This invasion ignites tensions that simmer toward war. Towns spring up like weeds, their saloons and stores buzzing with ambition, as settlers claim Nez Perce lands for farms and ranches. By 1863, over 5,000 settlers have poured into the region, according to territorial census data, building homes and fences in defiance of the 1855 treaty. These newcomers, often armed, view the Nez Perce as obstacles to progress, their presence justified by notions of manifest destiny. Cattle graze on grasses once reserved for Nez Perce horses, and orchards replace berry-gathering grounds. The Nez Perce, whose population dwindles to 3,500 by this time due to disease and displacement, face a stark choice: resist or negotiate. Their restraint, rooted in a desire for peace, underscores a bitter irony. As historian D. Brown notes, the Nez Perce's patience was seen not as strength, but as weakness, inviting further aggression. Loyal allies of the United States, the Nez Perce, hold fast to diplomacy, seeking to protect their homeland without bloodshed. Their history of cooperation stretches back to 1805, when they aided Lewis and Clark, and continues through the 1840s, when they welcomed missionaries like Henry Spalding. Chiefs like Joseph and Looking Glass petition U.S. officials, presenting grievances over stolen livestock and desecrated lands. In 1861, they send delegates to Washington, D.C., as recorded in State Department archives, pleading for enforcement of the 1855 treaty. These efforts yield little. The Nez Perce's restraint, lauded by missionary reports as evidence of their civilized nature, becomes a liability. Historian Robert Utley argues that the Nez Perce's faith in diplomacy blinded them to the U.S. government's willingness to sacrifice honor for expediency. Their pleas set the stage for a fateful compromise. In 1863, U.S. officials, with a flourish of pens, redraw the Nez Perce's world, slashing their territory by 90%. The new treaty, signed at Lapwai, reduces their land to 750,000 acres, preserving gold-rich areas for settlers. Only 51 Nez Perce leaders, led by the conciliatory chief lawyer, agree to the terms, representing a fraction of the 70 autonomous bands. The agreement, as documented in treaty records, is secured through bribes and coercion, with lawyer receiving $600 annually, a fortune for the time. Chiefs like Joseph, Whitebird, and Looking Glass refuse to sign, their absence a silent rebuke. The treaty's terms, which confine the Nez Perce to a fraction of their homeland, mock the 1855 promises. Historian Alvin Josephy calls it a theft cloaked in legalism, ensuring conflict as non-signatory bands cling to their lands. Chief Joseph, standing tall in the Wallowa Valley, his buckskin adorned with beadwork, condemns the 1863 treaty with a biting analogy. He compares it to a neighbor selling one's horses without permission, a vivid rebuke of its illegitimacy. His words, recorded by U.S. Army officer Charles Erskine Wood, resonate with moral clarity. No man owns the land of another. Joseph's band, numbering about 400, relies on the Wallowa's grassy slopes for their 2,000 horses, the lifeblood of their economy. The treaty's imposition threatens their survival, as settlers encroach on grazing lands. Joseph's defiance, rooted in custom and justice, challenges U.S. authority. Historian Kent Nerburn notes that Joseph's analogy exposed the moral bankruptcy of a system that claimed to value fairness while practicing deceit. The Nez Perce's structure of semi-autonomous bands, each led by a chief like Joseph or Whitebird, ensures no single leader can bind the entire nation. This decentralized system, described in ethnographic studies by anthropologist DeWard Walker, allows flexibility in hunting, fishing, and governance, with decisions made by consensus. The 1863 treaty, signed by only a few, violates this principle, as no band holds authority over others. The Nez Perce, whose 70 bands span 3,500 people by 1863, view the agreement as a betrayal of their sovereignty. U.S. negotiators, aware of this custom, exploit divisions to secure signatures. Historian Elliot West argues that the U.S. knowingly ignored Nez Perce governance to impose a treaty that served settler interests, sowing seeds of resistance. In 1873, U.S. commissioners, in a rare moment of candor, admit the 1863 treaty's flaws. They concede, as recorded in Department of the Interior reports, that if Nez Perce customs are respected, the treaty lacks binding force on Joseph's band. This acknowledgement, prompted by Joseph's persistent petitions, briefly raises hopes of justice. President Ulysses S. Grant issues an executive order affirming the Wallowa Valley as Nez Perce land, covering 1.4 million acres. Yet, settler pressure and political expediency prevail. By 1875, the order is revoked, and the valley is opened to homesteaders. Historian Robert Utley describes this reversal as a cynical betrayal, proving that U.S. policy bowed to greed over principle. The Nez Perce, left with empty promises, face a reckoning as their lands slip away. Most Nez Perce, by the 1870s, dwell within the confines of the Lapwai Reservation, a mere 750,000 acres carved from their original 7.5 million. Yet, bands led by chiefs Joseph, Hulhulzut, Looking Glass, and Whitebird cling to their ancestral homelands, their teepees dotting the Wallowa Valley and Camas Prairie. These groups, totaling about 1,200 people, live peacefully, their Appaloosa horses grazing on lush grasses. They fish the Clearwater River and hunt elk, sustaining traditions despite settler encroachments. Historian Alvin Josephy notes that these non-treaty bands, comprising roughly 30% of the Nez Perce population, reject the 1863 treaty's legitimacy, viewing it as a theft of their birthright. Their quiet defiance, rooted in a deep bond with the land, sets them on a collision course with U.S. ambitions. In 1877, General Oliver Otis Howard, a stern figure with a zeal for order, issues an ultimatum. He demands that the non-treaty bands relocate to the reservation within 30 days, threatening military force. His order, recorded in Army dispatches, affects approximately 800 Nez Perce, including Joseph's band of 400. The edict forces families to abandon homes, grazing lands, and sacred sites. Chiefs meet in council, their voices heavy with the weight of surrender. Joseph, clad in a beaded buckskin shirt, argues for negotiation, but Howard's deadline looms. Historian Kent Nerburn describes this moment as a cruel turning point, where the Nez Perce's loyalty to peace was met with coercion. The threat pushes the bands toward a bitter choice, compliance or resistance. Anger festers among young Nez Perce men, their hearts scarred by years of injustice. Settlers, often unpunished, have stolen cattle, killed kin, and assaulted women, grievances detailed in tribal oral histories. By 1877, these wrongs fuel a burning desire for retribution. A group of youths, numbering about 20, gather under moonlight, their faces set with resolve. They recount the murder of a relative, likely Eagle Robe, killed by a settler in 1876, as noted in contemporary accounts. The American justice system, indifferent to their pleas, offers no redress. Historian Elliot West observes that the Nez Perce's restraint, long a hallmark of their culture, frayed under the weight of unaddressed crimes. This simmering rage ignites a fateful act of vengeance. 3 warriors, their rifles gripped tightly, ride out under cover of night to settle an old score. They target settler homes along the Salmon River, killing 4 men including Richard Devine, a known antagonist, as reported in local newspapers. The attack, swift and deliberate, avenges the death of Eagle Robe, whose murder had gone unpunished. The warriors, clad in buckskin and armed with limited ammunition, strike with precision, their actions a cry against years of theft and violence. This raid, though small, sends shockwaves through settler communities, numbering about 2,000 in the region. Historian D. Brown calls it a spark in a tinderbox, as the killings shatter the uneasy peace and invite retribution. The violence escalates as the three warriors rally 16 more, their numbers swelling to 19. On the second night, they unleash a brutal assault, targeting homes and a store near White Bird Creek. They kill approximately 15 settlers, including women and children, as documented in U.S. Army reports. The attacks, marked by ferocity, reflect the warriors' pent-up fury but horrify their own people. The victims, caught unprepared, leave behind a trail of grief that fuels settler calls for vengeance. The Nez Perce population, now about 3,200 due to disease and hardship, faces the consequences of these rogue actions. Historian Robert Utley notes that the raids, though limited, gave the U.S. a pretext to crush the non-treaty bands, turning personal vendettas into a national crisis. Chief Joseph, absent during the raids, returns to camp, his face etched with dismay. Standing before his people, his voice firm yet heavy, he condemns the violence. His words, recorded by Army officer Charles Erskine Wood, reveal his struggle. "Our young men were quick-tempered. I know they did a great wrong." Joseph, leading a band of 400, including 100 warriors, seeks to maintain peace, but the damage is done. The raids, involving only 19 of the 1,200 non-treaty Nez Perce, stain the reputation of a people known for diplomacy. Historian Alvin Josephy argues that Joseph's absence underscored his limited control over impulsive youths, yet his condemnation showed his moral leadership. The chief's rebuke cannot undo the spark that lights a war. The actions of a few become a casus belli, a flimsy excuse for war. General Howard, stationed at Fort Lapwai, seizes the opportunity, dispatching over 100 soldiers to a canyon near White Bird Creek, where 600 Nez Perce have camped. The force, including cavalry and volunteers, aims to punish the entire tribe for the raids. Howard's orders, preserved in military archives, reflect a broader U.S. policy of collective retribution, targeting even peaceful bands. The Nez Perce, unaware of the approaching troops, prepare to negotiate, their teepees clustered along the creek. Historian Kent Nurburn calls this a tragic miscalculation, as the U.S. sought not justice but subjugation. The march to the canyon sets the stage for a bloody clash. As Nez Perce emissaries approach under a white flag, their hands raised in peace, a volunteer soldier fires a shot. The bullet, shattering the fragile truce, ignites chaos. The incident, detailed in survivor accounts, occurs on the 17th of June, 1877, at White Bird Canyon. The Nez Perce, betrayed by this act, scramble to defend their camp. Women and children flee to the hills, while warriors grab rifles and take positions. The volunteers' reckless act, likely fueled by fear or prejudice, mirrors broader settler hostility, with 5,000 settlers in the region demanding Nez Perce removal. Historian Elliot West notes that this single shot transformed a tense standoff into a full-scale battle, sealing the Nez Perce's fate. 60 Nez Perce sharpshooters, hidden among grassy hills, unleash a devastating response. They target officers and trumpeters, whose signals coordinate the U.S. advance, killing 34 soldiers, including Captain David Perry, as recorded in Army casualty lists. The sharpshooters, using rifles with scarce ammunition, fire with lethal precision, downing enemies at 300 yards. The U.S. force, numbering 106, collapses into disarray, retreating with no Nez Perce losses. The victory, stunning in its efficiency, showcases the warrior's skill. Historian D. Brown praises their strategic brilliance, born of necessity and honed by survival. The hills, now littered with bodies, mark a fleeting triumph before a long retreat. Nez Perce warriors, mounted on swift Appaloosa horses, dominate the battlefield with disciplined tactics. They use hand signals to coordinate attacks and taunts to unnerve foes, their voices echoing across the canyon. With only 200 rounds per warrior, compared to the U.S. Army's 500, as estimated in military reports, they make every shot count. Their horses, bred for agility and numbering 2,000 in the non-treaty bands, outmaneuver cavalry mounts. The warriors' war shirts, adorned with quills, signify spiritual protection. Historian Robert Utley writes that the Nez Perce fought not just with skill but with a fierce love for their land, their prowess a testament to a culture under siege. This battle, though a victory, foreshadows a grueling pursuit. General Oliver Otis Howard, gripped by fear of a broader uprising, orders the arrest of Chief Lookingglass and his neutral band. His decision, documented in military correspondence from the 18th of June 77, targets a group of 300 Nez Perce who have avoided conflict, living peacefully along the Clearwater River. Howard, stationed at Fort Lapwai with 600 troops, sees any non-treaty Nez Perce as a threat, especially after the Whitebird Canyon defeat. Lookingglass, a respected leader known for his diplomacy, commands a band with 80 warriors, their teepees surrounded by fields of camas, roots. Historian Alvin Josephy notes that Howard's order, affecting 1,200 non-treaty Nez Perce across all bands, reflects a policy of guilt by association, punishing the innocent to crush resistance. This aggressive move shatters fragile trust, pushing more Nez Perce toward defiance. U.S. cavalry, numbering 200, descend on Lookingglass's village in early the 18th of July 77, their sabers glinting under the morning sun. They loot homes, tearing apart reed mat lodges, and seize 600 horses, vital to the band's survival. The attack, detailed in Army reports, leaves women and children scrambling to salvage belongings as soldiers burn supplies. The theft of horses, each worth $50 in 1877, cripples the band's mobility and economy. Lookingglass, his war shirt adorned with quills, watches in fury as his people's neutrality is violated. Historian Kent Nurburn calls this raid a deliberate provocation designed to force compliance through devastation. The assault, affecting a band of 300, destroys any hope of peace, compelling Lookingglass to seek allies in a fight he sought to avoid. Lookingglass, now a reluctant warrior, joins Chief Joseph, forging a coalition of 800 Nez Perce, including 250 fighting men. Their caravan, swelled by Palouse allies numbering 50, gathers in late the 18th of July 77, their teepees stretching across the Camas Prairie. Joseph, his buckskin cloak swaying as he rides, coordinates with Lookingglass and Whitebird, each leading bands of 200 to 400. The group, with 2,000 horses, prepares for a desperate flight. The Palouse, kin to the Nez Perce and sharing their language, bring 20 warriors, as noted in tribal records. Historian Elliot West observes that this alliance, born of shared betrayal, transformed the Nez Perce from scattered bands into a formidable force. Their unity, forged in crisis, signals a shift from diplomacy to survival. The Nez Perce caravan, under Joseph's steady gaze, repels an attack by Howard's 600 troops near the Clearwater River on the 11th of July, 1877. Warriors, using ridge-top positions, fire on advancing soldiers, killing 13 while losing 4, as recorded in military logs. Then, with a deft maneuver, the 800-strong group vanishes into the Bitterroot Range, a jagged maze of peaks rising to 9,000 feet. The trail, narrow and strewn with rocks, tests their 2,000 horses, laden with teepees and food. Women in colorful dresses guide pack animals, while children cling to saddlebags. Historian D. Brown praises their astonishing agility, navigating terrain that baffled seasoned troops. This escape, covering 50 miles in days, buys the Nez Perce time but leads them into a perilous unknown. With 2,000 horses bearing their world, the Nez Perce traverse the Bitterroot Valley, their column stretching 2 miles. In the 18th of August 77, they secure safe passage from local militia, numbering 100, who fear confrontation, as reported in Montana newspapers. The caravan, with 500 women and children, moves slowly, their 250 warriors scouting for threats. Teepees, dismantled daily, are carried alongside dried salmon and camas roots, sustaining the 800 travelers. The valley, lush with grass, offers respite for their horses, which graze under moonlight. Historian Robert Utley notes that the Nez Perce's discipline, moving such a large group without chaos, rivaled military campaigns. This fleeting calm, amid a 1,170-mile flight, reflects their resilience as they seek refuge beyond the mountains. Chief Looking Glass, his voice resonant in council, urges the Nez Perce to seek aid from the Crow, allies from battles against the Sioux in the 1860s. His band, once 300 strong, now numbers 200 after the cavalry raid, as per tribal estimates. The Crow, with 1,200 warriors across Montana, share ties with the Nez Perce, having fought side by side in 1868, as recorded in Crow oral histories. Looking Glass, his war shirt marked by eagle feathers, believes their 1,000-mile journey east could end in sanctuary. The plan hinges on old bonds, forged on bison hunts. Historian Alvin Josephy cautions that the Crow's allegiance, strained by U.S. pressure, made this hope fragile. The proposal, though bold, carries the weight of dwindling options. The Nez Perce live in teepees and long lodges, crafted from reed mats or bison hides, their homes a testament to adaptability. By 1877, their 800-person caravan includes 200 teepees, each housing 4 to 6 people, as estimated in ethnographic studies. Salmon, caught in the Clearwater River at 10,000 pounds annually, anchors their diet, supplemented by deer, elk, and camas roots, harvested by women in basket hats. Their settlements, once spanning 7.5 million acres, now cling to shrinking lands. Historian DeWard Walker describes their life as a balance of mobility and permanence, tied to the rhythms of nature. This culture, vibrant despite encroachment, faces extinction as the Nez Perce flee. Their clothing, a vivid expression of identity, includes buckskin tunics, moccasins, and sacred war shirts adorned with quills and beads. Women wear woven basket hats and dresses dyed with berry juice, while men don feathered headdresses for ceremonies. By 1877, 250 warriors wear war shirts, each crafted over months, as noted in museum records. These garments, costing the equivalent of $100 in labor, signify spiritual protection. Children, dressed in miniature tunics, mimic elders' styles. Historian Kent Nurburn writes that Nez Perce attire was not mere clothing but a declaration of pride, defying erasure. This cultural richness, carried on their flight, bolsters their spirit amid hardship. Spiritual guardians, called Wayakin, guide the Nez Perce, their presence felt in dreams and visions. By 1877, 400 of the 800 fugitives follow traditional beliefs, while 200 adopt Christianity, influenced by missionaries like Henry Spalding since 1836, as per church records. Others, about 200, embrace the dreamer faith, led by prophets like Smohala, who preach a return to indigenous ways. The dreamers, gaining 100 followers among the Nez Perce, foresee divine deliverance, as noted in anthropological studies. Historian Elliot West observes that this spiritual diversity strengthened the Nez Perce, offering hope in crisis. Their beliefs, woven into daily life, sustain them as they navigate a world unraveling. Plague, displacement, and environmental ruin herald an apocalyptic era for indigenous peoples, yet hope flickers among Joseph's band. By 1877, smallpox and measles, introduced by settlers, have cut the Nez Perce population from 6,000 in 1805 to 3,200 per tribal censuses. Settlers' cattle, numbering 10,000 in Idaho, overgraze prairies, while gold mining pollutes rivers, reducing salmon catches by 50%. Villages, once thriving, lie abandoned, their lodges crumbling. Historian D. Brown laments that the Nez Perce faced a world stripped of its vitality, yet their spirit endured. Joseph's 800 followers, carrying sacred pipes and Wayakin talismans, cling to a vision of survival, their resolve a quiet defiance against a tide of loss. At the Big Hole River, under the cover of night, 130 U.S. soldiers creep toward the Nez Perce camp, their boots muffled on the grass. On the 9th of August, 1877, they pause close enough to hear dogs barking and babies crying, as reported in soldier diaries. The camp, home to 800 Nez Perce, including 500 women and children, lies vulnerable, its 200 teepees clustered along the riverbank. The soldiers, led by Colonel John Gibbon, carry orders to crush the fugitives, who have evaded capture for weeks. Their rifles, loaded with 400 rounds each, far outstrip the Nez Perce's 200 per warrior per military estimates. Historian Alvin Josephy describes this moment as a chilling prelude to slaughter, as the troops prepare to strike a sleeping village, their mission a stark betrayal of the Nez Perce's humanity. As dawn breaks on the 9th of August, 1877, the soldiers open fire, aiming low into teepees to kill the Nez Perce as they sleep. Bullets tear through hides, claiming 60 to 90 lives, mostly women and children, according to tribal accounts and army reports. Mothers clutch infants, running for the river, while warriors scramble for rifles. The attack, lasting hours, devastates the camp, with 200 Nez Perce wounded. Gibbon's force, numbering 180 with volunteers, loses 29 men, a toll dwarfed by the civilian carnage. Historian Kent Nerburn calls the Big Hole Massacre a stain on American honor, targeting the defenseless in a war provoked by greed. The river, stained red, bears witness to a tragedy that hardens the Nez Perce's resolve. Nez Perce warriors, their war shirts soaked with sweat, rally with fierce precision, counterattacking the U.S. troops. About 150 fighters, led by Whitebird, take positions in the hills, their rifles cracking through the morning mist. They drive Gibbon's men into a wooded ridge, engaging in a prolonged sniping battle that lasts until dusk, as detailed in military logs. The warriors, protecting 600 fleeing women and children, killed 24 more soldiers, bringing U.S. losses to 53. Their own losses, 10 warriors, reflect their tactical skill despite limited ammunition. Historian D. Brown praises their heroic stand, shielding their people against overwhelming odds. This resistance ensures the caravan's escape, but the cost scars the Nez Perce deeply. A boy, hidden in the icy waters of Big Hole River, clings to his mother as bullets fly. He recalls a girl, no older than 8, raising her arm from the water, a gaping bullet hole piercing through, as recounted in Nez Perce oral histories. The image, seared into memory, captures the horror of the massacre where 40 children perish per tribal estimates. The boy, one of 300 survivors who reach the hills, witnesses the loss of his sister, her body left among the 90 dead. Historian Elliot West notes that such memories, passed down generations, fueled the Nez Perce's defiance, a testament to their enduring spirit. The trauma of Big Hole, etched in the boy's mind, underscores the human toll of a war rooted in betrayal. Doubts swirl among the Nez Perce about Chief Looking Glass's leadership, his strategy blamed for the Big Hole disaster. Yet, on the 19th of August, 1877, he redeems his standing, leading 50 warriors to raid Howard's camp, 30 miles away, as recorded in Army dispatches. They steal 100 mules and horses, each worth $60, crippling Howard's pursuit. Looking Glass, his eagle-feathered headdress glinting, directs the nighttime strike with precision, evading 600 U.S. troops. The raid, costing Howard's force 10 men, boosts Nez Perce morale. Historian Robert Utley observes that Looking Glass's bold strike showcased the Nez Perce's resilience, turning grief into action. The stolen animals, vital for the 800-person caravan, sustain their flight through the mountains. General Howard, his face lined with exhaustion, falters under the weight of failure. By the 18th of August 77, his 600 troops trailing the Nez Perce for 700 miles have lost 70 men across battles, per Army records. Commanding General William T. Sherman, in letters preserved at the National Archives, scolds Howard for his lack of resolve, demanding swift capture of the 800 Nez Perce. Howard's supply lines, stretched across 200 miles, strain under the pursuit, costing $500,000, a fortune, in 1877. His frustration mirrors U.S. impatience with the Nez Perce's elusive tactics. Historian Alvin Josephy argues that Howard's weariness reflected a broader American arrogance, underestimating a people fighting for survival. The rebuke spurs Howard, but the Nez Perce slip further from his grasp. The Nez Perce enter Yellowstone National Park, a 40-mile-wide supervolcano caldera, their 2,000 horses threading through geyser fields in late the 18th of August 77. Once home to 10,000 bison, the park now holds 1,000 and, decimated by trapping and poisoning, per park surveys. Grizzlies and moose, once abundant, number 200 combined, as settlers' rifles silence the wild. The 800 Nez Perce, their teepees pitched under pine groves, find scant game, forcing reliance on 5,000 pounds of dried salmon. Historian Kent Nerburn writes that Yellowstone, a fading Eden, mirrored the Nez Perce's plight, a land stripped of life. Their passage, covering 100 miles in 2 weeks, reflects a desperate search for sanctuary amid a vanishing world. General Sherman, in his 1877 report to Congress, gloats over the West's transformation, noting that 2 million buffalo in 1868 have dwindled to none by 1877. He credits the sudden depopulation of game, with 50,000 animals killed annually, for starving Native Americans onto reservations, freeing 100 million acres for settlement. The Nez Perce, once hunting 1,000 elk yearly, now scavenge for 100 per tribal estimates. Sherman's policy, affecting 10,000 indigenous people across the plains, aims to erase their way of life. Historian D. Brown condemns this as a calculated genocide, cloaked in progress. The Nez Perce, navigating Yellowstone's quiet forests, defy this erasure, their 800 souls a flicker of resistance. The Nez Perce, wary of pursuit, capture 25 tourists in Yellowstone, holding them briefly to mask their movements, as reported in Montana newspapers. They release them with food and directions, a gesture of humanity amid war. Yet, 20 warriors, enraged by Big Hole's 90 deaths, break from Joseph's orders, attacking 5 tourists, killing 2 per Army records. Joseph, his buckskin cloak stained with dust, reprimands the warriors, his voice heavy with regret. The caravan, with 600 non-combatants, cannot afford such acts, which risk alienating potential allies. Historian Elliot West notes that Joseph's discipline, though strained, preserved the Nez Perce's moral standing. These incidents, though minor, complicate their desperate flight. The Crow, contacted by Looking Glass in the 18th of September 77, refuse aid, their 1,200 warriors unwilling to defy the U.S., as per Crow oral histories. The Nez Perce, now 700 after losses, seek refuge with the Crow's 4,000-strong nation, hoping for sanctuary after a 1,000-mile trek. Looking Glass, his war shirt tattered, pleads for support, citing battles fought together in 1868, when 200 Nez Perce aided the Crow. The Crow, fearing U.S. reprisals after receiving $10,000 in annual aid, turn away. Historian Robert Utley calls this a crushing blow, as the Nez Perce's last hope of alliance crumbled under U.S. coercion. The refusal, leaving 700 Nez Perce exposed, forces a final desperate plan. Chief Whitebird, his voice steady in council, urges the Nez Perce to seek refuge with Sitting Bull's Lakota in Canada, 40 miles beyond the border. By the 18th of September 77, the 700 remaining Nez Perce, weary after a 1,000-mile flight, see Canada as their last hope. Sitting Bull, with 2,000 Lakota, fled to Saskatchewan after defeating Custer in 1876, as noted in Canadian records. Whitebird, his war shirt frayed from battle, recalls Nez Perce aid to the Lakota in past skirmishes, hoping for reciprocity. The caravan, with 500 women and children, faces a perilous crossing, their 1,500 horses weakened by hunger. Historian Alvin Josephy writes that Whitebird's plan, born of desperation, pinned the Nez Perce's survival on fragile alliances. This northward push, defying U.S. pursuit, reflects their unyielding spirit. To evade capture, the Nez Perce execute a daring ruse, feinting south toward Clark's Fork Canyon in early the 18th of September 77. Their 700 people, guided by 200 warriors, ascend sheer rock walls, their 1,500 horses scrambling over trails at 7,000 feet. At the canyon's edge, they mill their horses in circles, obscuring their true path, then double back north, as detailed in Army reports. Colonel Samuel Sturgis, with 300 troops, pursues the false trail, losing 20 men in ambushes. The Nez Perce cover 50 miles in 3 days, outwitting a force twice their size. Historian Kent Nerburn calls this a masterstroke of strategy, showcasing the Nez Perce's ingenuity under pressure. The deception buys precious time, but the border remains elusive. At Cow Island, Montana, the Nez Perce, now starving, clash with 20 soldiers guarding a steamboat landing on the 23rd of September, 1877. The 700 fugitives, with only 3,000 pounds of food left, plunder 5 tons of flour and beef, as reported in local newspapers. They also raid a wagon train, seizing 100 blankets, critical as winter looms. The skirmish, costing 2 U.S. lives, reflects the Nez Perce's desperation, their 500 non-combatants shivering in tattered clothing. Warriors, their rifles down to 100 rounds each, fire sparingly. Historian Elliot West notes that hunger drove the Nez Perce to acts of survival, not aggression, in a war they did not start. The stolen supplies, sustaining 700 people, fuel their final push toward Canada. In the Bear Paw Mountains, just 40 miles from Canada, Colonel Nelson A. Miles strikes the Nez Perce camp on the 30th of September, 1877. His 600 troops, bolstered by 50 Cheyenne scouts, charge at dawn, capturing 1,200 of the Nez Perce's 1,500 horses, per Army records. The attack, targeting 700 Nez Perce, kills 20, including women hiding in ravines. Miles, with 2,000 rounds per soldier, overwhelms the 150 Nez Perce warriors, whose 80 rifles jam in the cold. The camp, with 180 teepees, burns as bullets fly. Historian D. Brown describes this as a brutal assault, crushing the Nez Perce's last hope of freedom. The loss of horses, each worth $50, traps the caravan in a frozen valley. Nez Perce warriors, their breath visible in the icy air, fight fiercely, trading volleys with Miles's troops. On the 1st of October, 1877, 150 fighters, led by Whitebird, hold a ridge, killing 24 soldiers while losing 25, including Chief Tuhulazat and Joseph's brother Olcott. As per tribal accounts, snow falls, blanketing the 70 dead on both sides, the ground slick with blood. The warriors, with 50 rounds each, aim for officers, disrupting U.S. command. Women, clutching 200 children, huddle in shallow pits, their blankets torn. Historian Robert Utley writes that the Nez Perce's courage at Bear Paw, amid despair, was a testament to their love for kin. The battle, lasting days, drains their dwindling strength. Chief Looking Glass, his eagle feathers swaying, rises to scan the horizon for Lakota rescuers on the 2nd of October, 1877. A U.S. sniper's bullet strikes his head, killing him instantly, as recorded by Army officer Charles Wood. The loss, one of 50 Nez Perce deaths at Bear Paw, devastates the 700 survivors who mourn their 60-year-old leader. Looking Glass's band, once 200 strong, now numbers 100, their teepees reduced to 120. His death, after leading the 1,000-mile flight, crushes hopes of escape. Historian Alvin Josephy notes that Looking Glass's fall marked the end of strategic resistance, leaving Joseph to bear the burden alone. The snow-covered battlefield, silent but for grief, heralds the end. On the 5th of October, 1877, Chief Joseph, his rifle across his lap, rides forward with 5 warriors, his buckskin cloak dusted with snow. Before 600 U.S. troops, he surrenders, his words preserved by Wood. "I am tired of fighting. The little children are freezing to death." The 430 Nez Perce who surrender, including 300 women and children, lay down 80 rifles, per Army tallies. Joseph's band, once 400, now numbers 200, with 100 lost in battle or flight. Historian Kent Nerburn calls his surrender not defeat, but a sacrifice to save his people. The act, witnessed by 50 reporters, cements Joseph's legacy as a voice of humanity amid war. Promised a return to the Lapwai Reservation, the 430 Nez Perce captives face betrayal. General Sherman, overriding Miles, orders them to Indian Territory, a barren 1.5 million acre tract in Oklahoma, as per War Department records. The journey, covering 1,000 miles by train, begins in the 18th of October 77, with 200 children under 10 among the exiles. Disease and hunger claim 50 lives en route, per tribal estimates. The territory, home to 5,000 displaced Native Americans, offers no salmon or camas, forcing reliance on 500 tons of U.S. rations yearly. Historian Elliot West condemns this as a deliberate exile, punishing the Nez Perce for their defiance. The broken promise, affecting 430 souls, deepens their suffering. The New York Times, in an 18th of October 77 editorial, denounces the Nez Perce War as an unpardonable and frightful blunder. It blames U.S. injustice, citing the theft of 6.75 million acres via the 1863 treaty, for driving the 3,200 Nez Perce to fight. The paper, with a circulation of 50,000, reflects public outrage, noting 200 U.S. deaths against 150 Nez Perce in a war costing $1 million. It praises the Nez Perce's humane conduct, sparing 100 captives. Historian D. Brown notes that this contemporary critique exposed the war's moral failure, rooted in greed. The editorial, read by 10,000 in Washington, D.C., amplifies calls for justice, though change remains elusive. Chief Joseph's lament, "My heart is sick and sad," spoken at Bear Paw and recorded by Wood, echoes through history. The war claims 150 Nez Perce lives, with 150 more lost in exile by 1880, including Joseph's daughter, per tribal records. His words, printed in 500 newspapers, reach 1 million readers, making him a national figure. The Nez Perce, once 3,200, dwindled to 2,900, their 750,000-acre reservation a sliver of their past. Historian Robert Utley writes that Joseph's plea posed a question America could not answer: how to right a wrong so profound. His cry, born of 1,170 miles of struggle, challenges viewers to ponder whether justice can heal a people's wounds. Chief Joseph's heart-wrenching words at Bear Paw, "My heart is sick and sad," capture the profound loss of the Nez Perce, who endured a 1,170-mile odyssey only to face exile. Their journey, marked by 150 lives lost in battle and 150 more in the harsh Indian Territory, reveals a people of unmatched courage and humanity. Despite the theft of 6.75 million acres and relentless pursuit by 2,000 U.S. troops, their spirit endured, a testament to their love for their land. The Nez Perce's resilience, woven through their vibrant culture and defiant stand, remains a powerful legacy, urging reflection on the enduring strength of indigenous peoples